the freight, whatever number is there that you may want to aggregate by sum or average. So all the descriptive columns that say the sales payment type or the shipment type by plane or by train, all those columns that are purely attributes of a particular business process, you leave them in those tables that still exist. So you're building a Puppini bridge, which is just a union of tables which only contains keys and numbers. That's what a Puppini bridge is, keys and numbers, and one additional column that tells you what table that row came from. Because when you union two tables, each row is coming from just one table. When you join two tables, it's a mix. But when you union, you know exactly, you have 250 tables, 250 rows, so they come either from sales or from shipment. So for each row, you have an identifier that reminds you where that row comes from. So that table, that column, sorry, I call it the stage column. It's a column that says this row was originally in that table. Fine. But then you have the original tables. My friend 𝗪𝗵𝘆 gave it a name. He calls them the peripheral tables. So the peripheral tables are the tables, basically, that are not the bridge. So they are the original tables, except that they have one additional column, which is the Puppini bridge key. So that's that column needs to be added because it's a special column with a special naming convention, which needs to be identical to the name that is in the Puppini bridge. So when you put it in Tableau, Tableau says, oh, identical name, let's join by that column. Same does Power BI and most BI tools. When two tables have all column names different, but just two column names identical, they join by that column name. I made an experiment. If you have two tables and you have a column called notes, it joins by notes. It doesn't do any intelligence, it just does that. But it is important that all the column names that are identical by accident, like employee, created by, created on, notes, all these, they need to be contextualized, so the names of the columns must be non-ambiguous. This way, a human understands the meaning of those columns, and the machine, like Tableau or Power BI or other BI tools, does not make an attempt to join by those columns, which would be a bad idea. So ideally, you have, not ideally, it's important that you have only one column that has the same name as the Puppini bridge, and that's the Puppini bridge key. So basically, now you have one Puppini bridge, and then one peripheral table called sales, one peripheral table called shipments. You have three tables. What is the advantage of this? That now you have the benefit that you had from the union that I described to you before. You can still do those two reports, the fulfillment report, sales amount, shipment amount, and you can see all the details of the two, and they are related. So when you filter on one in one sheet of your dashboard, you see that filter on the other sheet of your dashboard. So you really have aggregation and detail all available, so you can navigate your dashboard and play around with aggregations and details, and everything is synchronized because of the capability of all BI tools of filtering and applying the same filter across multiple sheets of your dashboard. So it's all there, but now it's tidy because all the attributes of sales, they are in that folder, let's say, that is called sales. It reflects the name of the peripheral table sales. And then you have another folder called shipments, which reflects the peripheral table called shipments. So basically what is happening now? Let's summarize. We have built a new table with 150 rows. It contains all the facts. So all the facts, all those numeric columns that you want to aggregate, they moved from the place where they originally were, and it goes to this Puppini bridge. So now it's a completely different scenario. Now we have built a star schema with a virtual,
yes.
it's a virtual fact table. It's called Puppini bridge, but it contains all the facts that were in the other tables. And it also contains those numeric columns that are not in a fact table. This is the massive shift. So goodbye Kimball approach, goodbye facts and dimensions. In my methodology, you don't have fact tables and dimension tables. You have tables. any table now is allowed to have a numeric column that you aggregate by sum or average. I call these columns NRTD. I will write an article soon. NRTD stands for non-resilient to duplication, because these columns are weak. You are risking to duplicate them. They are not resilient. If you duplicate them, you see a number and you can't judge if they are correct or not, these numbers that you see, by doing a join the normal old way. But this way, you put all the NRTD columns, these weak columns that are at risk, you put them in a safe place. You put them in the Puppini bridge. In the Puppini bridge, nothing gets duplicated by accident. Let me repeat. In the Puppini bridge, nothing gets duplicated by accident. All the numeric columns, they fit in that stage where they natively belong to. So sales amount fits into the sales stage. Shipment amount fits into the shipment stage. So 100 rows there, 150 rows there. Everything is at the correct grain. Only later they get aggregated, but they haven't been duplicated, because when you duplicate an additive number, you can't deduplicate it. I can show you the formula that Google Looker is using for deduplicating numbers. It's called the symmetric aggregates. It's a formula that if you print it on a Word document, it takes a full page just for saying average of a client age. It's a full page of formula. I can send it to you. Actually, I can find it. Maybe I can share the screen later.
Yeah. A question.
Yeah.
Playing a devil's advocate. So in fact tables, we also have keys and facts.
Yeah.
We end up adding non-numeric fields as well into fact tables. But in reality, facts was for facts actually, not for non-numeric, right? But at a certain level,
I argue that. I don't agree with that. Fact table, no one says that the fact table shouldn't have a, I mean, what is a sales payment type? PayPal, Visa, MasterCard.
I absolutely agree on that. But in the essence, fact by name says you need to have only facts. So if you have two types, you should have a quad table or a dimension to connect with that. But people don't do that. But where I'm going is, you are right that in dimensional modeling, the facts are based on domains or a business problem as well. If the sales have sales fact. Shipment has shipment fact. So there isn't a concept of where in Puppini bridge, I think it's bridging that gap, that you can have keys from sales and shipment and XYZ as well, put into one Puppini bridge. Now this eliminates the need of creating dimensional model itself. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can directly connect with 3NF as well. If there's a bill NM 3NF, this will still work, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a few things to say here. Facts and dimensions is a thing that we all talk about, but it's very blurry. If you look, there's a database very well known. It's called AdventureWorks from Microsoft. AdventureWorks DW is called, which organized the data in facts and dimensions. And there is a table in AdventureWorks called fact underscore exchange rates. Wait a minute. Exchange rates, euro to dollar. Is it a fact table? Well, no, it's not. It's not a fact table. It's also not a dimension. So it's neither a fact nor a dimension. That's the problem. So with Kimball approach, you need to fit each table that you have into one of these two categories. But that's the real problem of the Kimball approach. Some tables are neither facts nor dimensions.
Sorry to stop. You are saying rates are not dimensions, is it? Because rates are...
I'm not saying, Microsoft is saying that. So if you have a table, no, but I agree that it's not a dimension. So if you have a table that has for each row currency from, currency to, and date, that's not the dimension table. And then it has numbers, the conversion rate.
I can argue on that one, because for me, facts are based on the transactions a business is doing. That is what facts is. If it is not a transaction, it's a dimension.
Well, first of all, there are different types of fact table, and transaction is one of them, but it's not only transactions. But the point is, you shouldn't argue with me, but with Microsoft. They called it fact exchange rates. And they did that because they believed that it was not a dimension. You may say that it's a dimension, but my opinion is that it's neither a fact nor a dimension.
Okay,
and there's another, that's crazy. There's a product, and the product name is translated into multiple languages. Italian, French, Arabic, and they called it fact product names. It is so. Hello, management of Microsoft. I want to find the exact name of that table. That table is not a fact table. It's a list of translations of a product name into different languages. It is not a fact table. Why did they do that? Well, there was some engineer that said it's not the dimension, because the key of the product is repeated multiple times, so it does not satisfy the dimension. So it's a fact. End of the nightmare. With Puppini, end of the nightmare. You don't need anymore to classify tables into fact tables and dimension tables. That's it. So tables are just tables. The only thing that matters is whether a table contains or not an NRTD column, a column that you will later want to aggregate by sum or average or any other aggregator that suffers from duplication. This is a thing that I will write an article about that. So you need to make this initial assessment. Will I want to duplicate, will I want to aggregate the year by sum? No, it's a numeric column, but you better not sum 2024 and 2025. It doesn't make any sense. So it's a safe number. It's a number that you don't care if it's duplicated or not, because you will not aggregate it by sum or average or median. So you need to assess at the beginning when you're starting your project, oh yeah, quantity, I will want to do some quantity. Yeah, that's an NRTD column. That is in danger. Let's protect it. Let's put it, let's move it to the Puppini bridge. And you can also leave the original in the peripheral table, but you need to rename it sales quantity underscore NRTD, meaning be careful, it's not resilient to duplication. You're keeping that column there. Whenever you will use that column in a point where you're also involving a column that comes from shipments and hence introduces duplication, be aware that this column will be duplicated. So take your responsibilities. Be sure that you know what you do. You can hide those columns from business users and leave it for advanced usage. People who do machine learning can do that because they know what they're doing. But basically, every column that is that in the future you may want to aggregate by sum or average, you put it in the Puppini bridge. And then it's up to the engineer, it's up to the architect of the solution to decide whether they want to also keep a copy in the place where they are at risk of duplication.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a few more technical questions.
But yeah, before, I mean, you are asking me because I took it very, very wide. So I told you facts and dimensions, they are not very clear. So you are asking if the Puppini bridge is, you said something about facts and dimensions. Basically, because the distinction of fact and dimension doesn't exist anymore, that was basically the answer to your question. It's
no,
not
that is where I'm coming. That is where
okay.
I'm coming. So as we have a data preparation layer, and I'm a big fan of keeping Kimball into semantic, not into data preparation.
Keep
so
it
data preparation
far from the core layer.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So for data preparation, I can keep Bill and Mon 3NF if you want to build waterfall. And for agile data preparation, I keep Data Vault, Focal, and Anchor over there. Now, what you are saying here is, as Puppini bridge sits into semantic, which is the next layer of data preparation, this one Puppini bridge can, let's say there is a 3NF, Bill and Mon 3NF into data preparation layer, and we have created a whole data warehouse. Now in semantic layer, you are saying create one Puppini bridge and connect that directly with the 3NF, with the data preparation layer. And now pull that into your dashboards. So what you are doing is data preparation layer and data and semantic layer, you are joining together using Puppini's bridge. Am I right to say that?
No, you don't join. I mean, you do exactly the same process that you would do with the 𝗫𝗏𝗆 approach. What do you do with the 𝗫𝗏𝗆 approach? You have your core layer. You typically don't duplicate. Either you do 𝗏𝗏 or you do data vault.
No, I'm not
So
duplicating. So okay,
yeah,
maybe
let's say that you have a 3NF database.
no, so
Then,
maybe I'm confusing you and audience as well. Let me rephrase myself. So in 𝗫𝗏𝗆, what we do is we drag fact and dimension into a dashboard. We join based on the primary key, foreign keys. Now we have Puppini bridge and we don't have dimension anymore. Now, when you have this Puppini bridge, here is my hand, huh? Yeah. So when we have this Puppini bridge here, are we
yeah.
bringing 3NF tables inside semantic layer, or we are keeping 3NF still in data preparation and only Puppini bridge is here with the relevant keys? How in physicalities, how it goes?
Okay, let's stay on 𝗫𝗏𝗆 for a moment. What you do in 𝗫𝗏𝗆 is basically, let's say that you have a data vault. No, okay, data vault has additional challenges of satellites. So let's stay on the classic 𝗏𝗏 3NF database. Whatever you're doing from that step to the presentation layer with the dimensional modeling of 𝗫𝗏𝗆, that is all valuable. Actually, what I'm saying usually to my prospects and clients is, you have already 𝗫𝗏𝗆, you have already done it. It's fine. We add a Puppini bridge on top of that. So all the work that you have done, it's still valid. All the dashboards that you have, they're still valid. They're reading from the same tables. So you may have in those tables one additional column called _PBK_clients. That column will not have an impact on the rest. So it's all the same process. You are building, you have chosen an architecture physical. So you have an ETL process, a pipeline that is taking something from the 3NF core layer, and it is maybe doing some transformation, renaming, or whatever. You keep that process as it is. You just, the only thing is, if they have already built dimensions where column names are ambiguous, I'm a bit sad, because it means that they are forcing, like a business user sees a zip code and they don't know if it's the zip code of a client. So I'm sad, but I don't want to change that, because that would have an impact on the existing reports that have been built on top of what they already have. So if I have a chance to build it from scratch, I say, you have employees that have built the dimensional modeling and so on. Tell them to do exactly the same they were doing before, except they add the PPK column, Puppini bridge key, and they do me the courtesy of renaming all ambiguous columns in a way that the name is unique. Non-unique names are a problem, because business users get confused and BI tools are trying to join by that column. So just do this exercise of making sure that the same column does not appear twice in that environment that is accessible by the BI tools.
Okay, so it's good I've asked this question, because the discussion which you are having, it seems as a layman that you don't need dimension model anymore. What you're saying is, do what you're doing currently, add a Puppini bridge. And now when you're saying adding a column into this dimensional model, are you saying add this additional column only in fact or dimensions as well?
Well, I don't call them facts or dimensions, but I still use those terms. But all the fact tables, I read recently some article that someone wrote about my book, and it was a nice perspective. So I learned something on how, and even I put it on Gemini, and Gemini is quoting that article, and it says, with the Puppini bridge, there is only one super fact, which is the Puppini bridge, and then all the other tables become dimensions.
I was about to say that. I was about to say that.
That's mind-blowing. I don't call them dimensions, but if you want to call them dimensions, feel free to do that. That's the whole point. So every table now needs to have a unique key. So another difference is that if you have a table of sales, and that table by the system doesn't have a unique ID. I've seen systems that don't assign a unique ID to the sales rows. 𝗫𝗏𝗆 says that you can obtain that unique ID by combining the foreign keys. That's 𝗫𝗏𝗆, why do you do this to me? That's not true for two reasons. First of all, you don't need all the foreign keys, because some foreign keys are redundant, so you don't need to put the country and the region. Country already defines the region. And especially, you may have combinations of foreign keys that are not unique. So you may have the same product sold to the same client on the same date, and people say not at the same time. Yeah, but the timestamp is not a foreign key. Timestamp is a timestamp. So if it's a foreign key pointing to the calendar, you may have cases when I have a client who has this case. Same client makes the same order, the same product, but in different quantities on the same day. So the combination of these three is not a unique key.
But
Sometimes.
you can always add that product owner name there as a composite key, right? To differentiate, see, again, it's a granularity, right? The moment you go into fact table, you need to have a granularity. Granularity is based on the foreign keys. And you're absolutely right. Not all foreign keys are actually foreign keys. Timestamp is not a key. Timestamp is just a segregation of dates. You are right on that term. But end of the day, you make it unique based on whatever keys, business keys you have, right?
No, that's not right. So I have a client, I repeat, who has a database. Now they migrated to SAP, but before that, they have a database where they didn't have a unique key for the sales, and the combination of the foreign keys was not unique. Okay. So there were genuine cases where there were 2 rows of sales with different sales amount, different quantity, whatever, but they had the same identical set of foreign keys. That's rare, but it happens. But that's not the main point. The main point is that for Kimball, facts don't point to facts. And that's the real problem. Because even when you do that, and even when the combination of the foreign keys is unique, still it creates a unique key, which is a unique primary key, but you have lost that foreign key that would point to that unique combination of foreign keys. You don't have that. So it means that it's unique if you want, in the cases when it is unique, but it still is not the primary key that can be looked up by a foreign key somewhere else. And for Kimball, it's not a problem because he says it's a fact table, so no one points to that fact table. I'm sorry, Kimball, you are wrong on this. It's a fact table. It's called sales, and there's a table called shipments that points to it, and there's a table called returns that points to it. It was not like that for 40 years. Now, I'm sorry, no, 30, whatever Kimball it is. I'm sorry, it's time to change it. So now with the Puppini approach, fact tables point to fact tables. So there is no more building of artificial keys, combinations of foreign keys, because if your system, if your original if your original transactional system allows you to create sales and shipments, whenever you receive a shipment, a parcel from Amazon, you have the order number. It's in the nature of the business. So it may be that the architect of the data warehouse has said, oh, Kimball tells me that this key is useless, so I throw it away. So it has been deleted in the data warehouse. So my friends, please restore those keys that Kimball told you being useless, because Puppini is telling you they are useful. I need them as unique identifiers for those tables that Kimball calls fact tables, and I call tables. And this guy, it's an Italian guy, calls them dimension tables. Sales is a dimension table for Puppini. Okay, fair enough. But importance is, don't lose the information of keys pointing to each other in your original system, because this is a precious information and we don't want to lose that information. Let's restore those unfairly discarded keys that Kimball was calling surrogate key. No, sorry, he was calling them, what did I use before the term? He calls them not redundant. Okay, I said it earlier in the video, I'll tell you in a minute. He calls these keys not useful, and restore them because they are useful. I'll tell you in a minute just what disappeared.
So, no worries. So for what you are saying, which I agree, 2 points open item for our audience. Fact and fact cannot join together because it become a many-to-many relationship in NOD world.
It's not even many-to-many.
No, but
it's not even many-to-many. Sales and shipments is not many-to-many. Each row of shipments points to only one row of sales. It doesn't need many-to-many to destroy data. Also, one-to-many can destroy your data, destroy your numbers.
Okay. And second point, what you're saying is, don't lose business keys from OLT applications. Bring all here. Don't lose those. Okay. Fair enough.
Degenerate. So they are called degenerate keys.
Okay, so we have a time check of 5 minutes.
I think
Francesco.
earlier I didn't use this term. So the term that Kimball uses is degenerate keys. And what is a degenerate child? Is a child who sells drugs and is a bad guy? No, these keys are sorry keys. If Kimball called you degenerate for 30 years, now with me, you're back to the place where you belong. You're back to your job. Okay.
Okay. So again, we have a time check of 4-5 minutes. I think it was a great session and we have justified it. I completely understood what Puppini Bridge is. And yeah, actually I have. And now at least I can say that I can jump onto my system and I can start creating that. This is the whole idea of our podcast. And it again, it's is great to have you, Francesco. I think our next session will be with hooks and Puppini Bridge together. And
Yeah.
let's say how this whole synergy works.
So we will make a global meeting with people in Australia and Europe and Asia. It will be multi-continent meeting.
Thank you so much again. Have a nice weekend. Pleasure to have you. Always pleasure to discuss with you. And let's keep innovating. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.